The Mississippi River is a very interesting beast in geography because, people west of the Mississippi like to stay west and east of the Mississippi like to stay east. And eventing especially has really kind of grown two different platforms, an eastern platform and a western platform.
Eventing grew up on the two coasts. There was one strong group from Virginia up to Massachusetts, and there was another strong group from California up through Oregon. This growth occurred in the late 50s and early 60s as our sport became a civilian sport. Remember, our sports history up until 1948 was basically a military one, and our civilian events got going in the early 1950s. And one of the big events was down in California at Pebble Beach, the site of the U.S. Open golf tournaments and other big events, but they had big equestrian events as well. So funnily enough, when our sport was very, very young, the riders from the East Coast did come out to the West Coast to participate in national championships. And we had one of our national championships in Colorado Springs in the 1950s, and we had several at Pebble Beach in the late 50s and the early 60s.
For a very long time, the really big, upper-level, high-class events were all on the East Coast, and so it really required any West Coast or Western U.S. rider who wanted to move up in the levels and really become an international rider to haul east.
So we were forcing the Western riders to come east. What's happened since then is the growth of the sport in the West has really become a significant aspect of the growth of the sport in the United States. We have a very strong base in California, a very strong base in the Pacific Northwest. Two of the 5 riders on the Canadian team are now from British Columbia, so a very strong base in that part of Canada. Well, that's all contributed to them needing some very good events out here.
One of the philosophies that my mom had and held dear was to create an event of that caliber for West Coast riders so that they didn't have to go east.
Rebecca Farm was in the right place at the right time. When it started 11 years ago and had the ambitions to be a very good event, it was fulfilling a real need. There was a parallel movement in California, in Woodside and in Galway to grow at the same time. There was a synergy involved. They were all meeting the riders' needs, meeting the customers' needs, and eventually, and it happened about 3 years ago, they started to attract the riders from the East Coast back out to the West.